IVM.
Inspired by the Padman of India, he quit his web designing job for a larger cause. He is a social entrepreneur, founder of the Eco Hub. He does grassroots level work without a pause. He creates awareness on menstrual hygiene, manufactures biodegradable sanitary products, and generates employment for the underprivileged women too. Mind you, he is someone who has shattered stereotypes, moved beyond cliché, and broken many taboos. He is also an activist, works on breast cancer awareness, positive masculinity, and does a whole lot of things that many men would dread. Please put your hands together for the founder of the Eco Hub and Bodhana, the Padman of Assam, Nelson Deb. Hi, this is Almaz, your host in Those on Beyond Cliché, and this is a show where we bring in guests who've broken gender stereotypes. Today, we're going to have a conversation with Nelson Deb and discover his journey coming up right after this short break.
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे पॉडकास्ट लगते हैं। नाम है फुटबॉल शुटबॉल।
Presenting Football Shortball, a show about three friends discussing our favorite game over a beer. Sometimes three, maybe even five. Hi, I'm Shiva, and with me are my two sidekicks, Gaurav Sapre and Karthika here.
Sidekick? You mean like Batman's Robin or Van Persie Robin?
No, I mean like Alexis Sanchez, but with a little more skill than just playing the piano.
Ha! Just shows how the best players at Arsenal are mere bench warmers at United.
Oh, thank you, Ayer. But you're a Fulham supporter, so whenever you say anything to support me, I question my beliefs.
Just like how Griezmann would say, एक बार मैंने जो decision ले लिया, तो मैं अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनता.
Banter aside, we will talk match reports, transfer rumors, top controversies, fantasy football picks, and so much more. So grab a beer and tune in to Football Shootball every Wednesday on the IVM podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Cliché. This is your host in those style, and this is a show where we bring in guests that have broken gender stereotypes and move beyond cliché. So every week I bring you a new guest and we have a deep conversation with the person to understand their journey. For the listeners that have just joined in, let me talk a little bit about a campaign that I'm running online. By the way, I'm a speaker, author, coach, change maker, and the space that I work in is gender stereotypes. I have a petition on change.org where I'm asking a leading diaper company to put the father's image on the diaper wrapper along with the mother's, and change the packaging. I think it's high time we create a new narrative and also include fathers as far as advertising is concerned for parenting. So if you believe in the cause, please go to www.change.org/papapampers2. I hope the COVID situation is getting better for you. I hope you're able to deal with the pandemic where you're staying at home and also listening to our podcast. Today, I have with me someone that has not only moved beyond cliché and broken a gender stereotype, but he is actually determined to break certain taboos. Yes, I have with me someone that I would like to fondly call as the Padman in Assam, a man that has dedicated his life to creating awareness on a whole lot of issues concerning women and providing sustainable menstrual hygiene products to the laborers in Assam. So I have with me a very, very interesting man. He is somebody who actually was a web designer. Yeah, so he's someone that had a great career going for him. He was a web designing consultant for a leading web designing Australian firm. And he sort of quit that and he decided to start this social enterprise called the Eco Hub. And this is based in a small district called Bokakhat in Assam. And since then, there's been no looking back for him. This happened in 2012, and we're going to discover more about his journey. He's been working with the underprivileged women in various rural and urban corners of Assam, India. I have with me in the studio the social entrepreneur and the co-founder and president of this NGO called Bodhana, Nelson Deb. Hi, Nelson. How are you doing?
Hi, Almas. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for taking the time out. I know you're very busy working with 30 men and training them on issues related to sexuality, gender discrimination, and positive masculinity. And we're going to talk about all of that today. This is a very, very interesting show today because I'm talking to someone who's actually working on so many important concepts, and usually a man is not associated with these things, but you're doing all of that. So tell me about your journey. You were somebody that has kind of played around with the fashion designing bit, right? You've also done your English honors, and then you were web designing, and then you decided to start something like this after meeting somebody in Coimbatore. So tell me about your journey, Nelson.
True, Almas, all of which you mentioned was all that I did when I was in Bangalore. I lived in Bangalore for a decade, and sometime in 2010, 11, when the whole social entrepreneurship was actually booming in India, that is when I met the actual Padman of India, Mr. Arunachalam Muruganathan, at a seminar in Bangalore. And that's when he actually received the President's Award for his innovation in designing the low-cost sanitary pad machine.
So this is the same thing that is depicted in the movie, The Padman.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I actually met the real Padman of India. And I'm talking about sometime in 2010 in Bangalore. And when I spoke to him and I attended the seminar, I really felt that he was doing an amazing job. And that's how actually, when I returned, not really returned, but when I was visiting home for my vacation, I actually spoke to a lot of my family and friends and neighbors and just spoke if there was a need for any kind of an intervention in the menstrual hygiene space. And that's when I realized that, there isn't anybody who's doing anything in the menstrual hygiene space in the whole of Northeast. And that is when I actually started doing some research when I went back to Bangalore, started doing some research on menstrual health with the National Health Mission in Assam, started, working with the Asha, the Anganwadis, whenever I used to visit, do some surveys. And that's when I realized that the menstrual hygiene management is poorly managed here, especially in the rural Assam. And that's when I thought that it's high time that, somebody should do something about it.
So, we're going to talk about the work that you've done in a little while from now, but I'm kind of trying to understand what motivated a man who was in the web designing space, had probably a career in IT in front of him, and he was doing pretty well. And then you suddenly just decide to take on a cause like this. Why menstrual hygiene, Nelson?
So, to be very honest, because I was born and brought up in a very pristine green environment in Assam, but living in Bangalore was actually taking control over my life. I mean, I was just getting annoyed with the pollution, with the population, with the infrastructure.
And the traffic of Bangalore, of course.
Absolutely, and the traffic, yeah. That was actually getting onto my nerves. And I was actually thinking that, this is not what I was really enjoying. Although, I mean, I was enjoying my work, but other than work, there wasn't anything, that I could look forward to. And I started realizing that there's something more deeper that I wanted to connect to. And that's when, as I said, the whole social entrepreneurship was actually booming. I started attending a lot of seminars and programs, reading a lot about social entrepreneurship. And then I met not just Mr. Muruganathan, but a lot of other entrepreneurs who were doing very good work in the social space. And I started researching and learning. And that's when I realized that, okay, maybe this is something, I mean, I've never learned business or I was not from the business background. And this is not hardcore business. It was more like business with a social cause. And that was something that really connected with me. I thought if I could bring about some kind of an impact with the people that I'm working with, not just by providing them salaries, but even otherwise, I mean, that would actually be really good. And that is why, and I think there wasn't any clear intention or like a focus that I would actually go into the menstrual hygiene space. But I think it just, everything fell in place. I met Mr. Muruganathan. I came back to Assam for a vacation. I found out what's the scene here. There wasn't anybody who was doing any menstrual hygiene work. And I felt, okay, this is maybe the right space to kind of work. And I took a risk, and I just, decided to come back. And I'm so glad that I took that risk.
We're glad too you took the risk. But you're saying that there was no clear-cut plan कि menstrual hygiene में ही काम करना है. But was there a hesitation of any sort at all that, this is predominantly a women's space? I'm just trying to understand from a man's perspective what was going on within you or also around you when you took this decision.
So to be very honest, because I was like living in Bangalore, and I mean, because it's a metropolitan city, at that time, at least with my circle, we never had any such stereotypes that this is a man's job or a woman's job or a profession as such. So that way, there wasn't any hesitation or anything as such. But to be very honest, like when I, told this to my parents, and my mother was like, didn't you find any other topic to work on?
Why this?
To work on an issue like, why this? Why produce ads? And but it wasn't difficult to convince. It was not even convincing. I think it was just the conviction that they understood that I was really passionate, and I think they've always supported me in anything that I wanted to do. And because they were seeing the passion in me, and I just went for it. Yeah.
Lovely. So it's so important to sort of get that kind of support, right? And you've been lucky in that space. But we're going to go a little deeper to figure out if you got the same kind of support from the people or the women that you were actually catering to. So Nelson, I'm actually writing a book, called Change Makers, and it's an anthology of women change makers. And one of the change makers is doing menstrual hygiene work, in cities in Jharkhand. And with her, when I was sort of doing a deep study, she told me the kind of taboo that they have around this concept of menstruation. And though she was a woman, she wasn't accepted very well. As kyun baat kyun kar rahe hain is bare mein? Why are we even talking about it? And here you are, you're a man that is trying to create awareness and saying, I'm going to sell pads to you and help you make your own pads and create employment. What was that journey? How well were you embraced? What were some of the challenges?
You can imagine for a woman, it is difficult. And for a man, it would be double the difficulty, because the whole space is a very woman-oriented space. And when I actually thought of it, as a business. I thought there weren't any other industry which was manufacturing or producing pads. Because, when I took the risk, I had to think about the business side as well. Like, I'll have to sustain myself. But when I began, I really didn't think that I'm actually going to do a lot of awareness and education. I got the machines. We started the National Health Mission, where our immediate market, they, took the pads from us because there was a scheme at that time where they were providing subsidized sanitary pads to the rural population, to the girls and women. And we had a nice, business happening. But that scheme stopped. And then I was like, okay, now what? And that is when then I started actually realizing that, okay, why aren't, where is the market? Like, where do I go and sell it now? And that is when I realized that, okay, I really need to go out to these rural pockets, to these grocery shops, kinara shops, and all other pharmacies. And that is when I realized, when you go into the communities, that the woman, it's a huge taboo.
Right.
They just don't talk about it even in their families. And you being a man, and they don't even know you. Why on earth would they speak something so personal to you?
Right.
But it's not an easy thing. It wasn't easy at all. You had to get the community head. You had to get the Asha Karmis who are associated in those villages. You had to multiple times visit those villages, create a bonding with the adolescent girls, the women, visit the local schools, make yourself visible to them. And I think, it's a very slow, but the rewards are really big. The more they see you, the more they interact with you, the more they open up to you. And then they start believing you and trusting you. So, it's been very slow, but the results were like really good. It was very difficult. They were not speaking up. They were not telling about these issues. The men in those societies would come up in our programs and say, like, who's invited you? Why are you here to talk about these issues? Yeah. So, but it's been it's been slow and it's been difficult, but we've found a way and yeah.
How long has it been now?
It's been over 7 years, Almaz.
And in these 7 years, from what I understand, is you've been able to actually create employment for a whole lot of people, a lot of women, right? And that's the entire space that you got into was from an entrepreneurship point of view, right? And you worked extensively in that. So tell us, what's been some of your success in this space? How many, from what I understand is you have a lot of women laborers that are now using the pads. You also have women that are actually manufacturing these pads. So tell us more about your business.
Okay. So what actually happened was we have a unit and we don't actually need a lot of women. So even if we have 5 ladies, they are enough to manufacture these biodegradable sanitary pads. And these, we are packaging it only in 4 pads per packet, which is priced at 13 rupees. What we saw was that the available brands, the P&G and the Johnson & Johnson brands like Stay Free and other brands, which were available in the market, were actually a little expensive. And probably were not readily available in the villages. So our model was to keep the pricing low and make it available at their doorstep. So that is how we started producing, and we had a very small team, about 5 to 6 ladies who were involved in the manufacturing. And then we had a lot of we created these lady entrepreneurs who actually would take the pads from us and they would visit the villages and they will actually go door to door and, sell these pads. So that at least there's an advertisement, at least the people in the villages know. Because a lot of villages, the women didn't use pads also because they were expensive, also because they were not available, and they didn't want to spend that money to come to the town to purchase it from the town. So when we made these pads available in their own village, we had these entrepreneurs, sakhis, who used to, keep the pads in their houses. So the ladies would know that, okay, if I need pad, I need to visit this house and I will get it from here. So success stories in the way we started with biodegradable sanitary pads. And in the last 2 to 3 years, we have expanded our work to the neighboring state in Nagaland. And we've collaborated with the PAD project. The PAD project is the Oscar-winning documentary period, The End of Sentence.
Based
at
it was a big hit on Netflix.
Absolutely. And they also received the Oscars, right? For the short documentary. Yeah. So the PAD project actually came to know about the work that we're doing, and they wanted to, collaborate, get associated, and help us. So this was a great move. We could now move to the state of Nagaland, set up a production unit there, provide employment to another set of ladies, not a huge number, but about 5 to 6 ladies there. We're producing biodegradable pads, and that's one of its first kind unit that's been set up in the state of Nagaland. So,
wow.
Also
congratulations, by the way. Congratulations for this big achievement. I think it's fantastic, that entrepreneurs like you are doing such amazing work.
Thank you so much. And I think it's because of people like you who actually reach out to us to learn about the work that we're doing. And then, that's how a lot of others come to know about what we're doing. Because, also the project that we're doing in Nagaland is in a small, very tiny pocket but we've been making news, and there's been a lot of awareness that is being generated. Uh, we always make sure that our production and the education goes hand in hand. We strongly believe that educating adolescent girls and women on menstrual health management is so very important.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we're in conversation with Nelson Deb, and so far we've spoken about his entrepreneurship journey. We're going to talk about how he's also involving adolescent boys and men in this journey to sort of create awareness and in these causes. Right from menstrual hygiene to he's doing some work with WASH and then positive masculinity as well. So we're going to talk to Nelson Deb after this short break. I'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Intel, for supporting us. First, right off the bat, want to congratulate Ashton Doctor on celebrating the 300th episode of The Habit Coach. It's a great show. If you haven't been listening to it, listen to it now. And if you listen to it, you can almost go for an entire year with an episode a day. It's really fun. Do definitely check that out. We had Siddharth Roy Kapoor on Gauri Devi Dayal's This Round's on Me. Great conversation over there. Arjun Koladi, the head of sales for Spotify in India, was on Advertising is Dead. Do check that out. Really fun show. Sonali Gupta has been on the network a number of times, was on Uncle Please Sit this week, and she had a great conversation with Joel Intrachar. On Cyrus Says, we had Samit Basu, the author, fantasy author, one of my favorites. Definitely do check that out. It was Utsav Memorial Week this week on the IVM network. He was on Cyrus Says Cock and Bull on Thursday. He was on Litnama and, of course, his own podcast, Postcards from Nowhere. Do check that out. And one last note before we go, IVM Likes is back, and we've been doing a bunch of interesting conversations about different pop culture things that you might want to check out during the pandemic. Do give it a listen. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. And with that, let me get you back to your show.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond Cliché. We're in conversation with Nelson Deb, a social entrepreneur and also someone that has launched his own NGO called Bodhana, where he's creating awareness on breast cancer. And he also is working with a lot of adolescent boys and men to sort of talk about gender issues and create awareness on why and how toxic masculinity is creating so much of imbalance in the society. So talk more about Bodhana. Nelson, we'd like to know your journey of involving boys and men in this journey. And that's, again, breaking a huge stereotype. So how are you doing and what kind of work are you doing in this space?
Okay, so because we've been working with adolescent girls and men in the menstrual hygiene space for the last couple of years, and because we are a social enterprise, we realized that, creating a sister concern, which is more like a nonprofit, would actually help us reach out on the education work that we do. Mm-hmm. And because we've been associated with so many girls and women on menstrual hygiene, during these programs, we've also realized that, men have an equal part to play. They are brothers, they are fathers, they are boyfriends, they are sons.
Absolutely.
And, it is so important that they are also educated on menstrual health. They're also educated on menstrual health products. And that is why we started, doing these programs with adolescent girls, with adolescent boys and men across Northeast and in parts of West Bengal as well.
Mm-hmm. So how's that journey been? Is it easy to get boys to participate in something like this? What are some of the challenges that you face?
So usually at this stage that we're in, we get a lot of invitations from colleges and schools to kind of, conduct seminars on menstrual health management.
Right.
And when we get invites, the school or the college authorities usually want us to kind of do a mixed group of boys and girls.
Right.
So in that case, it's never difficult, it's always easy.
Right. So but, organically, you're having a lot of boys participate in the seminar itself.
I think, in general, there's a lot of awareness around us now in the last couple of years. A lot of organizations, schools, colleges are feeling that there is a need for the men and the boys also to be, aware of, to be aware in this space. I think also the whole Padman movie created a lot of noise across India. Suddenly, like everybody's like now, wanting to do something in the menstrual hygiene space, talk about it, donate pads, create a campaign, do some work. So, I think Bollywood movies in India have a huge impact on the people.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's in fact a great platform to bring about changes and reforms through awareness, for sure. So, when these boys sort of come in to get trained on some of these concepts by you, what's their experience like, especially when you discuss things like masculinity and violence, and even, for example, menstrual hygiene? How do they receive it? What is their journey in getting trained with you?
So it's been a mixed bag, whenever I'm doing a program in the urban setup, in bigger cities, the students come with a specific mindset. I just feel that they're more educated, they're more aware of what's happening in the societies. And they're today's youth, and they are looking for a change. They are looking for, having equality in the societies. But again, when I work with men and boys in the rural setup, it is completely different. They still are in a society or in a setup where patriarchy is so huge that probably even if they're studying about it, even if they are kind of a little aware or they want to generate or do some work, they are suppressed. They're not able to do anything about it. So it's a mixed bag. In the cities, it's easier to work. Their reactions, they are learned, they're aware of what's happening, they believe in equality. But at the same time, in the rurals, in the villages, it's a little different.
You're currently involved in a project called Manush, and this is with Mava, with Harish Sadani, and he was one of the guests in my show. And he's doing some phenomenal work with engaging boys in this journey. So can you tell us more about this project and what exactly are you doing?
Sure. So, because I've been doing menstrual hygiene work for the last so many years, and then I wanted to also involve gender in this space. And that is when I actually got training from an organization called Nazariya that's based in Delhi.
Okay.
And Mava's team and Harish ji was also there as participants. So that is when I actually met Harish ji, I think 2 years ago in Delhi. And, I instantly loved the work that he was doing. It is so unique because there have been so many organizations who work for the woman, with the woman.
Right.
But his was the only organization who was working for the woman, but with men.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and that was so unique, and his model was so unique. And I remember in Delhi, I told him that, I invited him actually, that you should come over to Assam and we should do a project together. And so this is how it just came across. And, now that he's doing this project in Assam, he contacted me. And so Bodhana, which is the nonprofit that we have, so we've associated with Baba, and now we're kind of going to mentor 30 adolescent boys, youth from this region, with the support from Baba.
Yeah, and I'm lucky to be a part of it in some way, and that's how I met you. And I remember when I was doing a part of this workshop with the boys, I asked them a question. पिछले 3 महीने में आप में से कितने लोग रोए हैं? How many of you've cried in the last 3 months? And a large part of the boys said no, we haven't cried. So definitely masculinity is impacting boys in a way they don't even know. Toxic masculinity, or rather patriarchy, is rather impacting boys in a way they don't even know. What are your plans in the future as far as this whole masculinity piece is concerned? What can we do about this space? There are very few organizations talking about it, and we are trying to sort of create an equal society without including men. Kaise hoga? We need to have more conversations with men. So what do you think we should do, and what are your plans?
Exactly. And this is the right time when I think, that our organization got in touch with MAVA and now we're doing a project together. This project is definitely going to create a lot of noise. We will make sure that, these 30 youth are going to go out in their communities, in their colleges, and create more awareness with many more younger men in their circles. So, and this is a project, it's not a short-term project, it's a 3 years long project. And I'm sure in the end of 3 years, we're going to create and kind of, be able to get at least over 5,000 men in this program.
5,000 men. Wow, that's a huge number.
No, and I think even more because, we just recently conducted this first training that got over on Sunday.
Right.
And yesterday, we've already created a social media page for Project Manush. This is named as Project Manush. And that's really going to go out. We're trying to really work on our social media because most of us now are at home. I mean, we're really not going outside a lot. And we're spending a lot of time with our phones, on social media. And we feel that, this is really going to help us.
Brilliant. I wish you all the luck. And I'm so happy that I'm a part of this. I have one last segment of this conversation that I want to talk to you about. With the COVID and pandemic situation, and Assam is also known for a lot of floods, where there's a huge issue with pads. So I know that you've been doing some amazing work during the pandemic. So tell us more about the work that's happening with pads and menstrual hygiene by your organization in Assam.
Okay. So, I have to mention this to you that along with the biodegradable pads that we produce, we are also producing reusable cloth pads. Okay. Because, we are very conscious about the products that we produce and, the outreach that we do. We are really concerned about the environment. We are really concerned about the material that is used in producing those pads. So recently, we tied up, we did a project, it's called STINA, which is Science and Technology Intervention in Northeast Region.
Okay.
This was supported by the Ministry of Donor.
Okay.
And I was a consultant for that project as well. And we set up cloth pad manufacturing units in all the states in the Northeast. And one such unit was also set up at EcoHub.
Okay.
So we are also, we are just not pad manufacturing business or an organization. We really talk about sustainable menstruation. It is so important that, you need to be aware of what you're using and how much waste you are actually, putting out there. Yeah. So we talk about not just biodegradable pads during our sessions. We talk about reusable pads. We talk about menstrual cups. We talk about tampons. We even talk about the basic cotton kapda.
Okay, hang on. Nelson, you're telling me that you are a man and you're talking about menstrual cups. You're talking about tampons. You're talking about these things to actually the rural women in Assam. This is actually happening.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you why we are doing this. Because we really
This is very progressive, Nelson. This is very, very progressive, yeah?
We are actually doing this just because we feel that the women and the girls should make the choice for their own life. We don't want them to take decisions looking at the TV, looking at those advertisements, and someone else deciding for them. So that is why whenever during our programs, we do a session called product analysis, where we talk about all these different kinds of products. We tell them what is it made of, how is it made, who's making it, what impact does it have on your body, what impact does it have to the environment when you dispose it, what is the disposable mechanism, what is the cost, how much are you actually saving at the end of 10 years. So, these are the things, and they're actually seeing a menstrual cup for the first time in their life.
What kind of reactions do you get, Nelson, from, let's say, a typical rural woman?
I mean, first of all, they're very worried about any product that needs to be inserted.
Absolutely.
So it's like the first reaction is always like, oh, it's like, no, But then when we talk to them about, how good it is and, the impact that it has on your body and the waste that is not generated and, the good that you're doing to the environment and all of that, I mean, they just feel empowered by the end of the day. And they just feel that now they have the capacity to take a decision for their menstrual health.
Wow.
And we want the women in our societies to take, decisions for their own health. Informed decisions, that is, because we are giving out that information to them. And it is so important because you asked me, what are we doing or what is the work that we did during a COVID pandemic and the floods? See, the floods in Assam is an annual thing that happens. And during floods, most of these villages which are affected, the people are actually relocated to relief centers, and these centers are usually government schools. So they have probably 2 to 3 toilets, and there are at least over 100 people living in that school. There are no gender segregated toilets. There are a lot of girls and women who are menstruating during that time, but they don't have proper facility to dispose their used pads. They do not have pads to use. So they are resorting to, torn and old and these kind of cloths. Also because there is a lot of rain, even if they use cloth, they're not able to dry it properly.
Right.
And when you don't dry your cloth, you're using a damp cloth, which creates a lot of infection.
Right. This is definitely a very big problem. And, a dear friend of mine is involved in sort of creating awareness in this, and she also has a petition around this. But these are issues that, we're not talking about. We're not picking these up, not talking about it. And what you're doing here, though you don't experience periods yourself, and you sort of said that this is a space I feel about, and I'm going to do something about it. So I think this is very, very, very powerful. Nelson, what would you like to tell a man who's probably listening to the show, wondering, maybe I want to do something in the menstrual hygiene space, but I'm not too sure. Is it my space? Maybe it's only for women. Log kya kahenge? Is it something I want to do? What's your message to a man listening to this?
I mean, my message, is out for anybody, irrespective of what gender you are. I mean, you need not say that this is a man's job or this is a woman's job.
Absolutely.
There is nothing like that. I mean, it's just your passion, your dedication, and your willingness to kind of do something like this. And, the space that we're working in, the menstrual hygiene space, you really need to have that connection with the woman. You really need to, work for a cause. It's not like, just kuch banaye, usko dukaan mein rakh de and it'll get sold. It's more than that. You really have to make sure that your production is happening on time. You're producing good quality stuff, which are actually going out to the people at the right time, with all other logistics that is taken care of. Then also making sure that you are actually doing a lot of education. If there is dedication, if there's willingness, it's not a job that only the woman should think about or the men. It's an equal thing. I mean, anybody who's actually passionate and dedicated. I know a lot of friends who are male and they're working in the menstrual hygiene space. So, I mean, I don't think, there should be any taboo or anything as such attached.
Yeah, you say that so seamlessly, Nelson, because you've definitely moved beyond cliche on this one. And I just hope and wish that so many more people, and especially men, think alike you. Because right now, the situation or the reality is that a lot of men, like you rightly said, that are involved in the lives of the women, like husbands, sons, parents, or rather the father, they sort of don't accept this fully. It's still a taboo, even in a lot of urban homes. Rural to chodi do, urban homes may be a taboo hai. We still have the newspaper being wrapped around a sanitary napkin pad when it leaves a medical store. So, we have a long way to go, but there are people like you that are making the change there. And what I really like about what you said, I'm going to end the show on this note, that you're empowering a woman to make a decision for herself. It's her body. and she has a right to make the decision. And we have a beautiful facilitator, a catalyst, and a vehicle in you, Nelson. Nelson, what a wonderful conversation this was. Thank you so much for joining the show and creating awareness on this.
Thank you so much for having me here, Almas. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure indeed. And I hope we've been able to talk about these issues in the most transparent manner, creating awareness and talking about the work that you're doing. If somebody wants to reach out to you, Nelson, how do we find you on social media?
So we have a Facebook page on EcoHub as well. On Instagram, we are there. If somebody wants to reach out directly to me, I can share, my social media handles.
Yeah, what's your Instagram handle?
It's Neem Sakarwa.
Okay, we're going to leave that at the end of the show in the description. But that sounds interesting. What is it, if I may ask?
You know neem?
Like neem ke patte, you're talking about the plant.
Neem ke patte, neem. So neem karwa hota hai, right? So it's Neem Sakarwa.
Oh, nice. How beautiful is that? Yeah, we'll definitely find you on social media. If you're looking for me, I'm pretty much everywhere. You can find me on Facebook with Almas Virani. I have a page and a profile as well. I'm on Instagram, almasvirani_1111. On Twitter, you can find me at almasvirani11. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a comment. Also, you can pretty much find this podcast everywhere. Please go to the IVM Podcast app or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm going to come back to you next Thursday with a new episode, with a new guest, somebody that has moved beyond cliche and created a new story. In the meanwhile, stay safe, stay happy, and don't forget to sign my petition, www.change.org/PapaPampers2. I'm going to see you next week. Bye-bye.
Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Don Bradman, and now Cyrus Brocha. Okay, probably not in the right company. Don Bradman is Australian. But it's called Cyrus Says, a wonderful show about everything. Find the show on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
How many times have you motivated yourself to improve your sleep, or lose weight, or be more productive? How many times have you failed? Hi, my name is Ashton Doctor. Tune into my show, The Habit Coach Podcast, where we focus on creating small, tiny habits to improve your life instead of those big, impossible tasks. So make listening to me a habit every Monday, Wednesday and Friday on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com or on your favorite podcasting app.